So, good evening, everyone. My name is Abhishek Gosai, and I'm part of business development team for Cambridge Assessment English. I would like to welcome you all for today's webinar on Young Learners Program, that is pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers. Those who are not aware of these terms, don't worry. We will explain all these terms during the webinar. We are happy to have Ms. Anuradha Prashant with us today, who will be conducting this webinar. Ms. Anuradha has over 12 years of experience in corporate and academics, an ardent advocate of skill enhancement for success. She has been addressing various academic forums across graduate and postgraduate levels in many colleges and business schools for the same. And before I pass it on to Ms. Anuradha, please note that we will enable the chat option at the end of this session. So please make sure you make a note of your query during this session, and we will be happy to address them at the end. And in case during the webinar, if you're not able to see the presentation or if you're not able to hear the presenter, please click on the reconnect button, which is there at the center. That will help you to sort out the issue. So now I hand over the platform to Ms. Anuradha Prashant.
Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you all for joining on a really nice evening. And welcome to this presentation on Cambridge English Qualifications. So, as mentioned, if you are having any queries during the course of the presentation, please make a note, and we will take the questions towards the end of this presentation. And if you have any connectivity issues, you can always click on the reconnect button. So why are we here today? We are here today to see how English as a language can be used to build communication skills right from a very young age. So we have been in the practice of working with children and working with students at a later age, but why not start early? So today we are going to primarily look at ages 6 and upwards, and what does Cambridge offer for such young learners, and we're going to look at it at a very, very graded every step, what is there for them. Yeah. So this is roughly the agenda for today. What you will be seeing on your screen is what we are going to cover over the next 1 hour. We're going to look at briefly on why is English very, very important, more so in today's circumstances where most of us are working, or even, for example, you're viewing this presentation online. So in such circumstances, why is English extremely important? Who are we? Who is Cambridge Assessment English? What is their credentials? Why are they reputed? And why is it best to do this language from them? What is in it for you, for your child? We might wonder, it's just 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. They're already learning English in school. So why should I look at more additional qualifications? So why? What is it that it is going to make a difference about is something that we're going to look at. We're also going to look at all the qualifications that Cambridge Assessment offers. It offers in a very graded fashion. So we're going to look at it step by step, what is there at each level. How can we support the learners? How Cambridge Assessment supports the learners is something that we're going to look at through varying resources, both online and offline. And what happens after an exam? We don't call it an exam, we call it an assessment. But what happens after that? What are the results like, and what is the way forward? And of course, towards the end, as I mentioned, we will enable the chat, and we'll be happy to take questions thereon. So please make a note of your queries, and we shall take them towards the end of this session. So the first step that we're going to look at is why is learning English very important? So as many of us have realized that English is not our mother tongue. We start off with some other language, but when we go into school, there is a mix of both. And then when we go out to places of work or professional employment, English is the language of communication. And the English that we traditionally learn is somewhat more theoretical in nature, and we are not very comfortable communicating officially in English. Therefore, we need to learn English the correct way, both for written formal communication, and also for communicative skills, which is both oral, which is speaking, which is reading, which is writing, and most often ignored, also listening. How do we listen to somebody who's speaking in English? So uh, there are varying reasons why it is important, but we will be highlighting some of the few. First of all, English is a common language which is accepted or which is spoken across countries. So, obviously, it opens doors for studying further. You're not limited by your country or your nationality. Today, if you want to do an online course, say from Stanford or from Harvard or from Oxford or Cambridge, it opens doors to studying in any country, be it Australia, be it United Kingdom, be it the America. It opens doors. There is a certain level of confidence that you see when you're communicating. It's about being able to clearly say what I'm thinking and also understand what the other person is saying. It helps me in my workplace. It helps the professional development. Travel. I mean, I'm sure all of us are right now thinking, when will we travel? But obviously, it is going to happen. And when we read English, we also open up our thoughts to a lot of cultures. We come across a whole lot of cultures, so our knowledge of other cultures improves. Our ability to learn from the internet, use the internet technologies is much, much better. We are able to appreciate books, films, music. I mean, the list is endless. So, just a mere understanding of this language opens doors to a lot of opportunities which otherwise may be slightly restricted. So, it is all the more important that we are now conversant with English in not just a theoretical fashion, but more as a tool for personality enhancement. So, where do I learn English from? There are multiple sources where you can learn English from. You can learn English from your own school, or CBSE, or ICSE. So many, systems of education do teach English. So, why learn from Cambridge Assessment? Who is this Cambridge Assessment? We will look at it shortly, but then all of us have heard of Cambridge. We know it's one of the oldest universities in the world, almost 100 years plus. It's one of the centers of education research. It pioneered in education research, and it has helped millions and millions of people learn English and prove their skills to the world. Cambridge Assessment English is a part of the Cambridge University, and especially the Cambridge Assessment English that which is offering all these certifications, is a non-voluntary organization which is, researched and pioneered and supported by the Cambridge University, who are the pioneers in the language development, content development, resource development itself. So you are learning basically from the place where most of the content has been created, and who are constantly innovating in the field of English as a language. And therefore, what better option than to learn from the best resource available. So Cambridge Assessment English is basically associated with the Cambridge University, which is going to provide you all the resources that you would need, and also help you in assessment. And these assessments are obviously recognized by world over, since it's coming from the most trusted, reliable university in the world. And as we said, why it opens doors to a lot of things. English is a language. What do these qualifications do? So basically what happens is these qualifications standardize a lot of things. So when I come up with a Cambridge English qualification or a certificate, it standardizes the entire learning into a very structured way, in which it builds on skills and not just on the theory or literature. So there is a clear-cut progression. So it assesses where you are currently, and it builds on your current level, takes you to the next level, builds you at that level, and takes you to the next level. So it is not where the assessment is pitching a standard and expects you to climb to the standard, but the assessment starts from where you are currently, and then slowly progresses your skills or upgrades or upskills you to a level which is probably the best. So we will look at it more in detail towards the middle of the presentation. And the tasks that are offered, or the content that is offered to you via these qualifications, are real life communication skills. So I cannot reiterate it more that this is not just about learning a language, learning the alphabets, learning the words, but it is about how to use these to communicate in a real life situation. So, in fact, most of the statements that you would see during the qualifications are can-do statements, which say that the participant or the student or the assessee can do these things. And when Cambridge, which is the authority in education and research in the English language, says that this particular candidate can do, such and such activities, it is accepted and valued worldwide. So there are almost, companies across the world use Cambridge English language qualifications as a basis for hiring and even for progression within the company. So if you see, it is accepted and valued worldwide, not just in companies, but also across universities for admissions. And there is a huge positive impact on learning and teaching, because as a learner, once you have a mastery over the communication skills, you have a confidence to take on the subject. And obviously for teaching also, it makes a huge difference to have a batch of students who are conversant, who are good, or who are at a similar benchmark level as far as communication skills go by. And Cambridge English qualifications, along with providing the assessments, provide a lot of support for the learners and the parents. When I say learners and parents, why not just teachers? It's because parents at a very young learner stage are the ones who would be hand-holding the children at home also. So although you might not be speakers of English, or although you might not be confident in English, it will give you some tools to basically motivate the children so that they start liking the language and become comfortable and more confident in the particular language. So what we are looking here, as I mentioned earlier, that Cambridge English qualifications help you to do a progression. Now, what is this progression? This is there is a benchmark tool that is used worldwide to assess English language skills, and this particular tool is referred to as the Common European Framework Reference. In this particular presentation, you will see it as CEFR, and it is an international standard which is being developed for describing language ability. So something like, if I say a person is a first-class graduate, it means that he or she is capable of certain actions. So similarly, in a CEFR, when I say that a particular candidate is at A1 level or an A2 level or a B1 level or a B2 level, it signifies a certain mastery over the English language skill at that particular point. Obviously, A1, which is the starting point, is the basis, and C2 is the expert. Now, where do young learners come? Young learners, there are 3 levels in young learners which we will see, some of which are pre-A1, so they're more of a preparatory to the basic program. And as they progress, they come on to the A1 level. So as I said, the CEFR is a progressive tool. So it first helps you to assess where you are currently, and then helps you to progress on to the next level. So it's almost like a ladder, which is kind of helping you to step up your communication skills as far as English language goes by. Now, how do we assess each candidate? We assess each of the candidates using the 4 key language skills. So this is the reading, writing, speaking, and listening is common for all languages in the world. So English is no exception. So CEFR also assesses a candidate based on each of these individual skills. So there are certain reading assignments, there are certain writing tasks, there are certain listening tasks, and speaking is basically a one-on-one interaction with another person who will kind of ask you questions and see if you're able to answer to the point, to the question that is being asked. Now, Cambridge Assessment English has been continuously involved over the years in both research and trying to enrich each of these levels by providing a lot of resources at each level. And each Cambridge qualification that we are talking about pertains to one of the levels. If I say A1, at A1 you have a particular Cambridge qualification that is offered. At A2 there is another particular Cambridge qualification that is offered. So you can see that there is one which is a pre-A1 qualification right at the bottom, and then there is an A1, and then there is an A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2. The C2 is the expert level certification, and one can obtain for the English language from Cambridge English Assessment. Now we are going to look at how these qualifications can help your child or help your learner. If you are a teacher, how can these qualifications help my student? If you are a parent, how do these qualifications help my child at home to be a better learner of the language, and also in the overall personality development, overall professional enhancement? Excuse me. So before we go into that, what we're going to see is just a few numbers, statistics on how many people over the last few years have taken these qualifications. So you can see that it's taken in more than 130 countries worldwide. It is accepted by more than 20,000 organizations. Over 50,000 schools use these qualifications each year. When I say 50,000 schools, it is all over the world, and it supports over 20 million digital learners. I think this is very, very important in today's age, because schooling itself is going digital in most of the places. A lot of kids are beginning their journey on learning on the online medium. So how does this help? It helps basically because it's proven a lot of students have taken it, a lot of institutions have taken it, and therefore it is perfected. There is a good system and a rigor behind it, and there is a lot of research which has gone into developing these contents and the entire assessment plan. We're going to look at the levels, the Cambridge English qualification levels, a little bit more in detail. We're going to look at it from a perspective of how it fits into the school. So if you look at primary is basically anybody less than 12 years of age, between 6 and 12. These are very ballpark age suggestions that we are giving, although Cambridge English qualifications does not prescribe any age limitation, just giving a ballpark reference between 6 and 12. If you see, you have a pre-A1 level, which is what is, I said, even before they get on to the A1 level, it's a pre-A1 level, which is called as the starters. It is more aimed at children who are just starting to speak the language, more comfortable in the mother tongue or any other language, just starting to speak in English language. And then we move on to the A1 level, which is the basic level, which is movers. Then the A2 level, which is flyers. At A2, you can see that there are two qualifications, which is A2 flyers and A2 key for schools, but both are pitched at different levels, which means that the understanding of the language and the usage of the language is slightly different. So for example, a 5th standard or a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old would be more comfortable with flyers. A 13 or a 14-year-old would be more comfortable with A2 key for schools. This is not just age specific, it is also how they use the language. So if you find that their usage of language is better, they're able to converse, think and respond at a slightly higher level, then they move on to the A2 key for schools. For today's presentation purposes, we are only looking at the first 3 qualifications, which is pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers, which covers till about lower secondary. So in an Indian school system, I would say about till class 6 or 5 and 6 maybe will cover under the A2 flyers. But again, these are only reference points, and what you should keep in mind is how each learner uses, understands the language and is able to use the language for processing and then respond. So the assessment, the initial assessment to be done before taking a qualification is very, very important. And that assessment has to be done either by the parent or by the teacher. And then slowly you can use the further levels to progress more on this language. So we're going to see a little bit more about the qualifications that are available in detail. So we will start with the pre-A1 starters and then move on to what is this A1 movers and then A2 flyers. Now, all three levels come under the young learners category, and they are designed to motivate the learners towards the language and build their confidence step by step. So we are basically looking at learners who are either speaking English at home, but they're not very confident about it, or who are speaking some other language and are making the transition towards English. So it's typically designed for young learners between the ages of 6 and 12. The focus is more on the practical skills that are required at this age in the real world. So we are not looking at practical skills required at, say, a corporate level or a college level or a higher education level, but we are looking at practical skills that would be required at this age group in a real world. And the best, and that is why we do not wish to call it as an exam, is there is no pass or fail. So every achievement of the child is celebrated with a shield. So we say that they are at a particular level, and everything that they do at that level is celebrated. And the objective is more towards motivating the learner towards the language in a very positive way. And therefore, the materials, the resources, if you see, are extremely fun and colorful. And they probably wouldn't even feel that they're actually doing some work. It would more be like a hobby. And most of the content is available on demand. So you could, we'll share with you some of the resource pages where you can go and look at the content. And it's kind of making it, a part and parcel of their learning. And it is not like learning a new subject or putting a lot of effort, exercises and worksheets. None of those methodologies are followed. It's extremely fun, and we'll share some feedback with you. A lot of children around the world have enjoyed the content that goes into this and are extremely motivated towards the language itself. So what do we do at a pre-A1 starters? So as I said, there are 4 skills that are assessed. And the 4 skills are reading and writing, listening and speaking. Now, exam format, the assessment format would be 20 minutes for reading and writing and listening skills. And for speaking, it's about 3 to 5 minutes per candidate. Now, what do we assess or what do we look for in reading and writing skills? We're going to look at a few sentences and you will be able to relate to them better. So something like, what color is the ball? And the candidate has to say the ball is red. We're not looking at even a complete sentence. It's a simple sentence. The ball is red. Where is the pen? The pen is on the table, or something like that. So we're looking at how they are able to use, say, a visual aid, a picture, and then convert it into a written sentence, or something like a fill in the blank. So there would be a sentence, something would be missing, and they're supposed to fill in the blank, which is in the writing skill. Reading skill, again, they have to read something and then maybe match the following or tick, circle the object out or something like that. So are you able to read, understand, and then respond? Are you able to write say there is a fill in the blank, are you able to write to the blank? Now, listening, again, there is a small audio or, a rhyme or a song or something that is played, which will have some cues. So it could be something like the car has, the wheels of the bus go round and round. And maybe there is a picture of a bus with, four options of wheels, which are either round, square, triangle, or some other shape. And you need to circle the round shape, which will actually become the wheel. So are you able to listen to something that is being spoken, relate to what is being asked on a paper? So these are all very simple questions, simple activities, but which are very important in a real world communication scenario. So the child is assessed, and the child does not even realize that I'm being assessed. It's just a small activity that they do, and in that activity there is a cognitive, there is an assessment which is going on. Speaking. Now, what is this speaking? Is it like an interview? Will there be, somebody alien? They don't know. What if my child is shy? What if they don't want to go into the room? So the speaking is generally done by primary school teachers in a given geographic area who are very, very comfortable with children. And the conversation is very natural. There is nothing like, okay, come in, sit down, question number one, question number two. It's not like that. It's something very, very natural, very comfortable. So they may be shown a book or a picture. First, they're made to feel comfortable in the scenario. And then they're just asked a couple of, what is your name? Or, what is your mother's name? Or where do you stay? Or how did you come? Or something like that. So are they able to respond when asked something in a way in which the idea is able to be conveyed? So we're not even looking at being grammatically right. We're just looking at the idea being conveyed to the person who's asking the question. So at this level, they are assessed for a pre-A1. And as I said, every activity that the child does is celebrated. So they come back with shields. The total exam length is about 45 minutes. It's roughly the a class in, if you look at Indian or Asian school timings, it's just a class. A class is about 30 to 40 minutes of duration. So it's only that. It's split into neat sections. There are enough breaks. So it is not tiresome. It is not stressful at all. And on your screen, on your right side, you will see some resources that are available. So there is a website, cambridgeenglish.org/starters/prepare. If you go there, you would see a lot of preparatory materials that are available, extremely fun to do. And in fact, you as a parent can use it as a family bonding time also, to sit with your child and look at these resources. So once the pre-A1 levels are over, the child has been assessed at that level. Obviously, we are looking at progression. As I mentioned, Cambridge English qualifications are about progression. It is not about taking a certificate and keeping it in my resume folder. It's about progression, how you are able to benchmark yourself and move on to the next step. So at A1 movers level, you can see that slightly, I mean, what we did in the starters level, but the level at which you are being asked questions slightly moves a higher step. So here you are asked to write simple texts, understand simple texts, and write out simple sentences. Again, you are in both listening and speaking. The kind of questioning is slightly different. It's slightly one step higher than the starters level, and the CEFR level that it corresponds to is at A1. And you can see that the total exam length also is increased by about 10 minutes. So if you see, it's about an hour. So reading and writing is for 30 minutes, listening is for about 25 minutes, and speaking is for about 5 to 7 minutes. The entire assessment is for about an hour. And again, at this stage, there is no stress, there is no tension, and the candidate takes the assessment in a very, very comfortable environment. The question paper does not look like a question paper, and it's quite fun worksheets, colorful worksheets that they actually do. Again, there are a lot of online resources that are available. You can go on to this particular link that is given, and you will find them in levels. So although the link may here say starters, you will find it for movers also in the same website link. Now, flyers is a level which is above A1. Now, what does each level correspond to? Each level exhibits certain kind of can-do statements. So, at each level, the candidate or the student is assessed for the particular assessee can do these activities. So at A2 level, we are seeing that they can understand short texts. Now, the importance is given to overall comprehension and not vocabulary. So sometimes we read something, we might not know exactly what one word means, but I'm able to understand the meaning from a general sense in which the word is placed. So is the student able to do that? Now, this is a very, very important skill at this stage, which is about between 10 and 12 years, because their understanding is much, much higher than their vocabulary. So my limited word knowledge, but my understanding is very, very high. So am I able to use that understanding to interpret the meaning of the word? So it's called as contextual referencing. In technical terms, it's called as contextual referencing. So I might not have a dictionary immediately to check the meaning of the word, but from the place where it is given, am I able to kind of infer a meaning and move on? I'm not running away from the task, but I complete the task with what I know, with what I understand. So this is a very, very important skill to build at this age. And at this age, we also see that a lot of children who are not confident with the language tend to move back and start falling, saying that I don't understand the meaning of that word. I don't understand the meaning of that word. Now, we might not know all the words in the dictionary, but there is something called as an overall understanding based on which we tend to infer and move on. That's a real life skill. So that skill is developed by doing the flyer. So the entire preparation focuses towards this skill while reading and writing, that I understand a short text, and even though I might not know some words, I am able to infer and write out a simple story or a description. I am able to describe a situation to somebody. I am able to describe a situation in writing. I know what is happening and I'm able to express it. And at this stage, this skill gives a lot of confidence to the children to move to the next level. And at this stage, it is very, very important to motivate learners towards acquiring the confidence through, especially working around these traits. So again, in listening, if you see, there'll be short conversations. So it will not be a line, or it won't be a song, or it won't be just a few words being spoken, but there will be some simple conversations that are happening, and you have to listen to the conversation and then infer and describe that conversation, or tell a short or a simple story based on the conversation. Speaking, again, you should be able to comfortably speak with a third party on a particular situation, or on a particular task, or some picture that is given, or some idea that they are asking you about. Now, once you clear that level, or once at the end of the level, when you get your certificate, which corresponds to the A2, it kind of gives you again shields, but the can-do statements are real skills which you have progressed to, which you have developed. So these are not just skills that I acquire by giving an exam, but these are skills that I acquire through the preparation, through the road to the exam. So which is very, very important that you prepare for the assessment, and the preparation helps you to build your skill to the required level. And the total exam length is again about a little over 1 hour, 70 to 75 minutes. But I mean, kids are comfortable taking this particular format. And again, as I said, it's quite engaging. It is quite learner centric. Now we are hearing this word a lot. It is extremely learner centric, and it is not from the examiner or the person who is going to evaluate you. It is about who you are. And most of the cases where we have seen children come from movers to flyers, they are extremely confident and they want to express more. They are enthusiastic in talking, etc. So a lot of body language, etc. also builds into the preparatory resources, and they are able to use that extremely well. So what you are seeing on your screen is just a sample from the A1 Starters preparatory material. So this is an exercise for the listening skill. So there's a birthday party obviously in progression, and the listening audio would says about maybe the cat is holding a gray balloon, or the cat opened a blue box, or the birthday the girl on the table was holding a pink balloon. The mother had a blue package with her. So these are all statements which would be given in the listening exercises, and coloring pencils and coloring tools would be given, and the candidate just has to color, just listen and color. So what is also being worked over here is the listening skill, understanding, and expression of what I understood. So it's almost like an activity. You would have seen a lot of coloring books, but coloring books are very on my own I color. But here you are listening to something, so you're basically using 2-3 of your senses. You're listening, you're seeing something, you're understanding, and then you are doing. So although there is so much of cognition behind this activity, the activity itself as such is a very, very fun activity. It makes you want to take the test. It motivates you. In fact, one of the feedback that we've actually gotten is most of the students who go through the Young Learners program are actually not afraid of any exams or assessments much later, because they are quite well accustomed to the mode of taking tests as being very fun and rewarding experience. This is an activity for A1 movers. So you can see the feedback somebody from Turkey has given, that there are a lot of pictures, so sometimes we don't understand, and we look at the pictures and we are able to understand. So although we've blanked out the instructions, obviously you're able to understand that it is about differences between the two pictures. So there would be some, maybe a writing skill, or it could be combined with a listening skill, wherein they ask you to spot for differences between the two pictures. And they're supposed to fill in the blanks. So maybe the towel is different, or there is a laptop under the bed, or there are two goldfishes in the jar. So it is combined. So spotting differences is an activity which we always do, but how does it get combined with improving or progressing or enhancing a skill is what this preparation towards this qualification gives you. So speaking test, this is where we get a lot of questions. Now this monkey is actually the logo for young learners. So it's quite fun. The books are quite fun because you have this monkey cropping up everywhere and, pointing out facts. So we come to the speaking test. Now, what is the format for speaking test? We have trained examiners. These examiners are primary school educators who know very well how to work with younger learners and younger age group. And they are not at all frightening, or the children need not feel very afraid or anything like that. They make the candidate extremely comfortable. And the focus is on the child. As I said, it's entirely learner centric. So the focus is on the child. and listening to the child, and the child somehow feels that these people are not judging me, and the child opens up and is quite free to talk to. So although speaking test is something that most of the candidates initially are afraid about, or the parents or the teachers are afraid about, at the end of the assessment that works out to be the most comfortable part of the assessment, because they feel we didn't even know that there was an assessment going on. It was just like talking to somebody at school. So it's extremely reassuring, and the format is varies between 3 and 5 minutes for starters to about 8 to 10 minutes for the flyers. So the timing varies, and that is something that the examiner handles. Very simple tasks, very fun oriented tasks that are done. So we saw initially that at A2 level, there were two assessments. One was flyers, which is from the young learners qualification, and A2 key for schools. Now, a lot of children come at flyers level and say, why can't I take the A2 key for schools? Now, as I said, it is not about the age. It is more to do with what I am able to do with the language. So if you look at the tasks for flyers, and you look at the task which is given for A2 key for schools, there is a marked difference in the level. It is not about usage of grammar or preposition or anything. Even the content itself slightly higher. How well is the candidate able to use the language in communication? So this is an assessment which the child has to take, and the parents or the teacher or the school has to enable the choice between flyers and key for schools. We at Cambridge typically recommend that if you have not taken flyers, to take flyers before moving on to the next level. But that is an assessment that differs from school to school, and you can speak to your local school coordinators, who will in turn get in touch with the Cambridge Assessment English and get back on which would be a better option. But at A2 level, there are two qualifications that are available to the learner, one which is the flyers and one which is the key for schools. I'll leave the slide for a couple of seconds for you to just see the content. Both are grammatical usage of a particular technical ability. But if you can see in flyers, it is the application is slightly easier than in key for schools. So it is all about how much the learner has understood the language and is able to implement it or use it in communication. So how does Cambridge support learners? A whole lot of materials are available because they have developed content for so many years with so many learners across geographies, that a whole lot of material is available online and offline, which are extremely fun to do also. So we're going to look at some of the materials. So at the young learners activity level, at the young learners level, which is starters, movers, and flyers, these are the range of activities or resources that are available. You have something called as the sing and learn. So almost like a rhyme format, very happily they sing or they learn to sing. And music is a great way to memorize or, get some thoughts in. So it could even happen without knowing that it is happening. So the music plays in the background and the child is actually learning. And then there is a word list picture book, which means that the vocabulary building happens through a picture book. There are pictures and then the words for it. The list is quite exhaustive. So it's not like a very small 10 item book. The list is quite exhaustive. There is a site where there are resources for parents. Most of the parents feel that once I've enrolled them for a qualification, why should I be the teacher? But these resources help you, as I said earlier, to build a lot of quality engagement time with your child. So I might not even be confident with the language, but I could motivate my child towards the language by doing some activities with them, a kind of, family bonding time with the child, some games, some little bit of activities. And these are all the resources that are available for the parents that they can use at home on their own. Apart from these, you have a lot of games and quizzes, puzzle, online games and quizzes, which the child can play on their own also. Plus, there are a lot of online learning activities. If I do not want a book or if I do not want to download anything, I can go directly online, and there are a lot of activities which I can do, quite interactive. If you go to the site and see, you can see, just simply selecting options and submitting, etc., which children are extremely comfortable doing it. Most important, what happens after an exam, what are the results, and how do I progress further? So what happens after an exam? Obviously, there is a certificate that is given. We will go and look at what the certificate has, what it contains, and what is the progression that the child makes based on the results that one gets. As I said, we celebrate each achievement of the child. So at pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers level, each learner gets a certificate. So there is nothing like you failed, you don't get a certificate. So there is a joy of receiving a certificate. Each child gets a certificate. But the certificate has something like the shields. The shield is the logo of the Cambridge assessment. So the shield is what the child gets for each of the skills. So if I have reading and writing, listening, and speaking skills, they get shields. A maximum of 5 shields is available for each part of the test. So if it's reading and writing, they get 5 shields. Listening paper, they get 5 shields, and speaking, they get 5 shields. So maximum that they can get is 5. And how the candidate is performed. So for example, in this particular mover certificate, you can see that they've got 3 on 5. Now it means that the candidate has done well in some areas, and in some areas, some more progression can be made. In in the flyer certificate, if you see in listening, they've got all 5. It means that the candidate is able to accomplish all the activities and can progress to the next level. Even in movers, they can progress to the next level, but there are 2 specific skills which the candidate needs to work on more. So the certificate basically tells you what you can do and what you must work on. So in that way, it helps you to identify what is your area of strength and what is the area that you need to work on more for in the next level, which is what we call it as. It helps in progression, it helps in personality building, it helps in the overall confidence building in communication aspect for the learner. So how do I understand each of the level? How do I know what the candidate can do and what the candidate has done, etc.? At the back of the certificate, there is a detailed listing given. Now, these are all a list of can-do statements, which means that at A1 level, at listening and speaking, the candidate can do this, can understand simple statements and take instructions, can listen to a conversation and reply to the questions. So they're all can-do statements. It cannot, the results do not speak about what the candidate cannot do. So that way, it's a very, very positive certification. It's a very motivating tool. And that is how you should also show the certificate to your learner, that these are all the things that you have done very, very well. And your progression to the next stage will be to work on these areas through the next qualification. We saw about global recognition, and these are all organizations that and universities that are that recognize this particular qualification from Cambridge English. And you can see that the list is endless. What we have given here is a very short snapshot. Whole lot of companies, a whole lot of universities recognize. More than universities and organizations recognizing, we have seen a marked change in the personality of the child, of the learner, which in itself is a huge achievement. And then they are able to build on their other skills, which make them acceptable into all of these places. So we've come to the end of the presentation. So I'll leave you with the email ID, which you can email into for any queries. And we have enabled the chat option. If you have any queries, you can post them and we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anuradha, for conducting this webinar for us.
Yeah.
And I really hope that all the participants found this helpful and informative. In case you have any questions, please do ask now. We have about 10 minutes and we have opened the chat option for you. So we'll be happy to take your question. And in case we are not able to take your questions right now, there's an email address given here. You can write your queries to us and we'll be more than happy to answer them. So I can see some questions here. When is the tentative date for exams? So basically these young learners program, the pre-A1 level, A1 and A2 level flyers, they are on-demand examination and it can be conducted on any day. So there are basically two options. Either you can ask the school to contact us so that we can take the conversation forward with them, or you can also, if you're interested in that you want your child to take these assessments, you can also send us an email with your details to inquiries@cambridgeenglish.in and we will come back to you on that then. I can see lots of questions I've just answered. Can we start it from next year? Manu Sharma has asked, can we start it from next year as my son is 5 years? Yes, definitely you can start it from next year as well.
And I'll just take this question from Shilpi, which says, how can they sit at a stretch for 45 to 50 minutes? It is not done at a stretch. The entire assessment is broken down into pockets of 20 minutes. So if you see the first reading and writing exam, it is only for about 20 to 25 minutes. And then there is a break. And then the listening starts for about 20 minutes. Speaking is separate. Speaking is not done along with these two, and that is only for about 3 to 5 minutes. So there is enough interval, and at any given point in time, they're engaged only for about 20 to 25 minutes. I would say settling in and settling out another 5-10 minutes. Not much, because at the age of 5 to 6 years, their attention span for about 20 minutes is generally accepted. So that is not an issue as far as attention span goes by.
And there's another question from Ms. Sunana Mattu. She's asking, how could a child of 6 years age cope up with such a vast schedule, including school and the language specialization?
Okay. So it is not a language specialization. As I said, most of the activities are extremely fun. Even at the school level, they are not made to undergo, take this through as a separate training or anything like that. I would say that what they do in a normal school is sometimes a little bit more taxing, and this is more like a hobby break for them. It is not done, the preparation is not done separately as a after school activity. It is something that is continuous. So they build it into the English language subject which is there in the school, or even if it is there as an additional training, it is quite a fun activity to do. You can go ahead and look at some of the sample activities. It is not at all stressful. And I probably feel that they do a little bit more stressful activities, and this actually acts as a good break for them. And we have done it in more than, at least I'm from Chennai. We've done it in so many schools over here. And most of the children, it's not done on a daily basis. Even the post school activities, it is done maybe weekly once or something like that. It is not stressful, that much I can assure you.
I can add up to that I've seen a lot of students who really enjoy preparing for these
Yeah.
examination, and while taking the examination they really enjoy.
Yeah.
And there's another question from Miss Rachna Paliwal. She has asked, what about CAT key for schools examination? So, ma'am, if you could, either you can go to our website, which is www.cambridgeenglish.org, to get more details regarding that, or you can also write to us on enquiries@cambridgeenglish.in, and we'll be happy to provide you more details on that assessment as well. And I can see similar questions. I've just saw one question where someone was asking about the CEFR, if we can explain it again in brief. You're not audible, Anuradha. I think your mic is.
Yeah, okay, yeah, now
Yeah,
it's on.
yeah, yeah.
So, CEFR is basically a standardized framework for language assessment, for English language assessment. Now, why do we need a standardized framework? It is like any other, for needing an assessment, you need to have a metric, you need to have a scale. So, CEFR is a framework that provides for standardized assessment. Now, the levels are many. Now, why do we have many levels? Because each assessee, each student or each candidate who is getting assessed could be at varying levels at starting and finishing of the qualification. So when I enroll for starters, I'm at a particular level, and when I finish starters, I have achieved that pre A1 level. And that level tells me that I'm now ready to take on movers. Now, this candidate could be at 6 years. Now, at the same age of 6, some other candidate could actually be at movers level itself in terms of the can do statements. And when they are at the movers level, they complete the movers and they are ready for taking on the flyers level. How do I assess these levels? There are online tools where you can go and check the level, or the school or the Cambridge ESOL will help you in assessing that. As I said, the age is only a guideline, but these levels are more of can do statements and proficiency or achievement in the use of the language. So the levels, the CEFR levels are standardized, which is acceptable across the world. So it is not about whether you are from India or whether you are from Australia. Across the board, across the world, these levels are acceptable. The when you say I am at A1 level, it means you can do certain set of activities using English language. So similarly, when you say I am at B1 level, it means you can do a set of activities using English language. Now, there are varying qualifications that come at varying levels. It could be business English, it could be CET and PET, it could be key for schools, it could be varying qualifications. But each of the qualifications tell what is it that you can do using English language in your communication skills. I hope that is clear enough. Anything more? Maybe Abhishek can add on.
Yes, so there is another question from a student. Saksham has written that I want to ask that I'm in class 4, and which level will I participate this year?
Okay. Uh, See, as I said, if you are in class 4, you can take an assessment for movers online. You can just go through some of the material of movers online. If you're comfortable with that, then you can go on to flyers. If you're in class 4, I'm assuming you will be about 9 or 10 years, right? So I think movers is the ideal level. But if you feel you can do the next level, which is flyers, you can attempt that. But movers, ideally, you should be comfortably placed in movers.
We just have 1 more minute, so we'll take this last questions. And in case you have any further questions after that, you can always email your questions or queries to us. So the last question someone has asked that, can we see some demo activities that will also help gauge us the interest level of the child? So yes, there are a lot of activities, there are a lot of preparation material which is available on our website, which is cambridgeenglish.org. You can log on to that website and you will be able to see a lot of preparation material for the students on the website.
How is the last question I would like to answer? Raghunath Vasudevan has asked, how is CEFR different from IELTS? CEFR is a rating, is a standardized mechanism. IELTS is an examination used for visa and purposes for immigration. So IELTS conforms to a CEFR level. So CEFR is only the levels which tell you what is it that you can do with your language, and IELTS is one of the assessments that help you to do that. Yeah.
Right. So with that we come to the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for everyone for joining today, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining, and stay safe. Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek. Yeah.
Thank you, Vanada. Thank you.
Yeah.